My story kind of begins in July of 2017, in that we got news that my dad had stage 4 liver cancer. And hearing that, like, you never really expect to hear something like that. I just found myself questioning, like, God, why? And why did we find it so late? Like, does he even have a chance? And also feeling like super lonely in it, like not feeling like I had a good community to like help me through it. I dealt with a lot of questioning and just a lot of doubt. Going into seeing my dad like getting weak and losing weight was just not something I was used to, because my dad was like just like a manly man. Like, I just didn't see him as like sick. Starting junior year and adjusting to all of this was really hard, because all I wanted was just like some fellow believers to just like pour into me during this. And I just really felt like the Lord just calling me to go look for a community somewhere and to go to the harbor and just try it out and see if I could find that community there. Whenever I went, it was just like nothing I had ever experienced. Like, I just felt so welcomed from day one. That was whenever like I really started to see like the Lord's hands working through this. When I got back from Harbor Student Weekend, my dad, he got admitted into the hospital, and we didn't really like know what was wrong, but he was just like really sick, and it was just like not looking normal. All the other times where we would question like, oh, does he need to go to the ER? Like, I'd have so much fear, but this time I didn't remember having any fear about it. I just felt the Lord just like right like next to me through all of it. My dad was in the hospital for like probably 2.5 weeks, and his physical state was just getting worse, but like what I saw the Lord doing in him was just insane. The Lord was giving him so much peace, and just seeing my dad like telling all these nurses about Jesus and like what Jesus is to him was just something like I had never seen. And like, it was just a pure example of what it means to suffer well. Seeing him be obedient through something where he could have like completely doubted was just unlike anything I had ever seen. They had told us that there'd be just like a couple more days, and I remember just being like on my knees that night, just like crying out to the Lord, like, please just give me like just one more day, so like so he could like tell me he loves me one more time, like if he can. The next day I remember just being like, hey Dad, like I love you, and I just want you to know like you've done such a great job. I remember him turning his head and looking at me, and he tried to say that he loved me back, and it was such an answered prayer. And just to see like that the Lord knew my heart needed that closure. The day that my dad ended up passing away, I always imagined that whenever I would hear that news that I would just crumble, but I just remember feeling so much peace with like just that sentence that like he's home. Like, just the peace that he was face to face with Jesus and he was healthy again was just like just the most like reassuring like news I could have gotten. And it really shows that through suffering there is purpose. Just since my dad's passed, just seeing how the Lord's used that suffering that my dad went through and just the suffering that I went through watching it, it's just I can't even put words to it. It's just, it's not meaningless. We really tried to celebrate what the Lord did through my dad's life and just how he's going to use this. And so for the funeral, we're trying to plan this in a way that we could share the gospel through my dad's passing, and we tried to make it have a godly perspective. So this is the letter that I wrote my dad when he was in hospice. I wrote, "My sweet daddy, what a joy and honor it is to be called your daughter. No man could ever match up to the place you have in my heart. Saying that you're the best dad in the world is an understatement. You have been our spiritual leader, provider, and encourager every day. You have loved me even on days when I don't love myself. I will always remember the day you got diagnosed because you told me something my heart will forever hold on to. You looked at me and told me that you have no doubt in your mind that this is what is going to grow me into the godly woman God intends for me to be. As I'm writing this letter, I still hold those words close to my heart. At a time when it would be so easy to be angry at God, you weren't. You continually told us that that you're still going to give God the glory no matter how this ends. It's victory. What an amazing role model you've been to so many. Just watching you wholeheartedly honor the Lord while suffering further proves how you've been a good and faithful servant. As I was reading the Word a while back, I came across a verse that couldn't describe you more perfectly. It's Psalm 73:26, which says, "My health may fail and my spirit may grow weak, but God remains the strength of my heart. He is mine forever." Wow, even writing this verse gives me the chills because your health has failed, but God has remained the strength of your heart. I can literally replace the word "my" in this verse with Patrick. Patrick's health may fail and Patrick's spirit may grow weak, but God remains the strength of Patrick's heart. He is Patrick's forever. Dad, your faith is unmatched. You have left such a lasting legacy on Cam and I. I can't even find a word good enough to describe how much I love you. We have such a special bond that I will forever cherish. You've set such a great example of what to look for in a future husband. Even the way you and Mom have been the epitome of through sickness and health has been something so beautiful to watch. You're so inspiring, Daddy. I hope you know that. You're my superhero. Love you endlessly. I just feel like through writing this, it just, even now, like, though I don't have my dad now, the Lord has, like, become my father. You know, just the way I've talked about my dad in this is just like, you know, I've seen the Lord be my leader and my protector, you know. I just can't imagine, you know, not knowing Jesus, because like through Jesus we have hope. In James 1, when it talks about when you're faced with troubles, you should consider it joy. The testing of your faith will grow your endurance, and that verse is just being lived out. Like, my endurance in just my spiritual life now has been transformed like night and day. It's not easy at all, but I think to suffer well is to wholly surrender to the Lord's will for your life.